PCA community, welcome back. This is Monday, right after the 2025 auction, our 30th. And again, thankful to the Lord for his generosity and kindness over so many years. We're actually recording this pre-auction, and I have two amazing PCA family members and team members who have been working diligently and faithfully and joyfully over this year in preparation for it. And this is a bit of a preview for me, but I think as we've prepared for this is really just a testimony to you of all that's been going on over the course of this year in preparation for what happened last Saturday. So we don't know as we record this, we don't know how this is going to play out sort of in terms of the feel and the final outcome, but I just want you to meet again, these two women and hear a little bit about their stories. So if you would start us off and introduce yourselves to us.
Sure. My name is Kirsten Schultz. I've been my daughter and I have been part of the PCA community for 5 years. This is my 5th auction. I started volunteering right away as soon as we got here. The first auction was a little bit different because that one was remote.
Yeah,
and so
that's right.
It wasn't.
That was the COVID auction.
It was. So really, my first real auction event was in 2022.
Okay.
And I've been on staff now for 3 years.
Yeah. All part of the auction team.
All part of the auction.
Yeah.
And so what I do for auction, obviously I assist Elizabeth and Liz with all the details, but my main function is I do all the marketing, all the graphics, all the marketing materials. I've created all the auction logos since I started with this.
All the programs, building those out. Yeah, all the signs outside.
All the signs outside, the slideshows, everything.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
you touch a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, next.
All right. My name's Liz LaJoy, and I've been a part of PCA for 4 years, and I've been on staff as the auction assistant for 2 years. I started out volunteering right away. I also do the yearbook with another volunteer mom, and my responsibilities for the auction are I oversee most of the volunteers that come in. So we have tons of volunteers throughout the whole year, from the start in September all the way to finishing the year out. And so I oversee kind of all their different jobs. We really couldn't do this without them.
Right. We're going to find out more about these amazing volunteers. But thank you, Liz, for your incredible work with them as well. So before we get in, you mentioned some people may not know Elizabeth, right? But talk about who Elizabeth is and what her role is in all this.
So Elizabeth is our auction manager, and if I'm not mistaken, this is actually her 17th year in auction. She also started as a volunteer, and up till I started on staff 3 years ago, she did it herself with all volunteers. I'm still to this day not quite sure. People probably don't realize is we work on auction all year round.
Right.
So as soon as auction finishes, by the time you hear this, we'll already be working on next year.
Wow.
So Elizabeth is the force behind auction and brings lots of tremendous talent and knowledge and experience to our team.
We're so grateful for her. I know I am personally. I mean, she's been such a steady through all of this. And like you, my first introduction to auction, actually, we were coming up to in 2019. My wife Kirsten and I knew we were coming to PCA, so our first event with the community was the auction of spring of 2019. And then the next auction event was COVID auction, number 1, I think. And anyway, it was crazy. But so grateful for Elizabeth and just the way that she leads and guides and prepares. So we know and sense already that this has a personal connection for each of you and your families. Would you mind just sharing a little bit of what that connection might be for you?
So, do you want me to go first? So when we first started at PCA, we got a letter that if your family was receiving variable tuition, you might think about volunteering. And my daughter, now in 6th grade,
They grow fast.
Is able to come to PCA because of variable tuition. So that's how I got involved. It was really very important to me to give back for the reason that my daughter's able to come here and to help other kids to be able to come here as well.
Yeah, I have a similar story. So we actually toured the school when my older daughter was going into kindergarten. But we're a little worried about, are we going to be able to make it all work? I believe we had our twins at the time they were babies. So thinking about two coming up at the same time. And then a couple of years later, we came in and heard more about variable tuition, and that was able to allow us to be here. And I started volunteering right away through different avenues and then with the auction. So I just love to be able to give back in that way and see other families experience PCA as well.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, one of my, to just hear what you're saying, one of my boyhood stories that seems to have always come back is this, and we won't go into all of it, but stone soup, right? I don't know if you remember something like that story, but it's just amazing what we bring, what we have, and yet God seems to multiply it. The little fish and loaves tied in, but I hear that in your stories, and that's really encouraging. Through all this, you've gotten to see into our community. You've already hinted at some of that, and the impact in others. Just from your vantage point over the last couple of years, and even this year maybe in particular, how have you seen God at work in the community through your efforts with the auctions, whether it's the volunteers or the broader community?
I just love to see all the different talents that come out. You know, we have so many different roles within volunteer opportunities at the auction, and everyone just brings, like you said, the stone soup. It all just comes together with everyone's talents and what they bring to the table. And there's something for everyone in terms of volunteering at the auction. And so I love to see, one of my favorite things to do is when gift wrapping is happening. That's a big group of volunteers that come in. And gift wrapping is not my talent. So I'll kind of sit back and watch. And I just love to see the friendships and connections that are being made. People who haven't ever met before. They might have upper school students and then lower school students. And that's one of my favorite things that God does, is just bring people together.
Yeah. It really is amazing to see. And you guys get a front row seat.
Yeah.
Liz, roughly how many volunteers are involved over the course of the year?
I think last year our total was 60 different volunteers. Yeah.
Wow. Just, ladies and gentlemen, just to give you a feel, there are about 450 families in the school across all the grades from preschool all the way up through 12th grade. That's a really significant number in terms of the volunteer spirit and contribution. That's really amazing.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this year being our 30th year in Pearls of Wisdom, and we're saying 30 years of compassionate community, I think that is the thing that strikes me the most.
Yes.
Is all these volunteers coming together with a real heart for the school. And we get the work done, but we also have fun doing it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely compassionate community in action. And I'd like to just add one other thing that maybe gets a little bit lost in the hubbub of everything is our staff and faculty really come through. They donate items to the auction. That's a huge part of the live auction, whether it be sharing their time or their talents. And so they are a huge, even though they might not be as visible on auction day, they are also, our staff and faculty are a huge part of auction.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. I know I was just talking with a couple of them this morning about either bidding on another staff faculty member's item. Terry Sharbaugh was envisioning himself as principal for the day down here, potentially at taking Carrie Boo's job, but even offering some of their own, and the real joy that they take in that. These are things that they really care about and they like and enjoy, and they really want to connect and share with our community. So thank you for highlighting that.
Absolutely.
So again, the auction team sounds really important, and you all have started as volunteers and came in. So can you tell us a little bit more, sort of cover all the different areas of the auction team? You mentioned the gift wrapping, but there's so many gift wrapping team. There's so much more. Just sort of share, what does the team look like?
So we have, right in the beginning, starts with our class gift coordinators. Okay. So the lead of the class gift coordinators this year was Nicole Marquis, volunteer. And she starts even in the summer. And like Kirsten said, we'll start right after this auction, getting that stuff together. And then there's parents that kind of coordinate with every class and create the gifts. So that's the first big group of people that come through. And then we have the gift wrapping team, and they set up those class gifts. Throughout the fall, we also have the data entry team, which will enter all the donations that are coming in, gift cards and silent auction. And then toward this week, we get all the setup team. So they come in throughout the week and help us set up the tables, help us set up, everything. Everything you see on auction day is run by the setup volunteers and the decorating team. And then we also have a lead decorator who comes up with kind of the vision for what it's going to look like. And she has a team as well, and that's Nikki Jordan this year.
Okay.
And she works with that team throughout the year to develop a plan. So,
wow.
Yeah, we're excited to see what that looks like.
You're doing marketing for all this as this is starting to develop.
Absolutely.
There's another, and you may have mentioned it, Liz, but maybe tease it out. There's another group, maybe it's you guys, who are reaching out to local businesses and communities. And so sometimes, asking for connection, but it's also an ambassadorship of letting people know that we're here and connecting us. Who's that and how does that work?
So that is our procurement team. So we as the auction team, Elizabeth will send out letters out to the community, and then we have people follow up on those with phone calls. Sometimes they go in person.
Right.
I sometimes call as well and reach out to businesses. So that's our procurement team, and they really make that connection.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, listening, I hope you get a sense. This is a major coordinated effort involving so many people, and we're just so grateful for all the volunteers, but all the people praying for it and preparing for it. So I know this is being recorded before, and you're thinking about sort of the rest of this week and Saturday. If you think and pray about this year, what most excites you and just, builds your anticipation for what you might see?
So what I think Liz I'll let her speak to this as well, but I think one of the most powerful times in the auction for us is always the sponsor child. You work so hard all year long, and then that sponsor a child section occurs midway in the live auction, and to just see those paddles go up to sponsor a year, to sponsor a quarter, to sponsor a day, it just we tend to get pretty teary-eyed.
Yeah.
And then, it's been a tremendous year this year in our whole development team's efforts. And so going into auction, we were a little nervous. Okay, is this going to impact that section of the event? And to have donor come forward and put up to $100,000 match for sponsor a child, God always provides. And that's the part that I'm really look forward to seeing what he does.
That was incredibly humbling and amazing just to hear about it. And Liz, you want to add anything?
I have a little story about sponsor a child. So our very first auction, I wasn't on staff, so my husband and I attended, and we sat at the table and started seeing the auction items go up. And we're like, oh, we have, this budget that we'll maybe put through for an item. And then we started seeing things go, and we're like, I don't know. We're just going to watch this. And it was really amazing to watch the whole thing. And then we got to the sponsor a child section and didn't really know what that meant, and was listening to the testimonials and hearing, and then watching paddles go up, and a year, a month, a quarter, a semester, and all of that. And then a week came up, and I look over and my husband's paddles up, and he's got tears in his eyes. And it was just so impactful. And every time we know what's kind of coming. It's a certain part in the program, but every time I feel like I got to get the tissues, and it's just very, very impactful. And to be a family that receives variable tuition, it's even more impactful because it helps our children as well.
Yeah, that's moving. It is the most moving of a very moving day from start to finish, from the first volunteers, guiding the folks parking. I know even people here before that to, closing people out, sending them home with their new treasures, but just, with real joy on their hearts and in their minds, and seeing God at work. So as work, you've hinted a little bit about, guys at work. Are there any other things that you're praying for, either, with Thanksgiving, or praying for just the Lord would continue to do? Because this, as you said, this carries through. It's obviously a one Saturday morning event, but it has an impact on the whole spirit of the school.
I think we always pray for the health and well-being of our staff and our volunteers. last year was a tough year. We had a lot of people that were out sick on the day of auction, and events happen no matter what occurs. So you just roll with it and you go. But I know that's one thing that we always pray for, in addition to obviously seeing how God will work, because at the end of the day, he's in control.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just health, and it's March, so we're still in cold, flu, all sorts of fun stuff. So just praying that everybody stays healthy.
Yeah, I think one of my prayers has been, it's very selfish, and I think that I ask the Lord to forgive me for this too. And the weather actually impacts attendance.
Yes, definitely.
And we've noticed, and I chuckle because I chuckle to myself largely because how silly are you, Mike? But we're all wanting the spring weather to come. And we know that if it's a really, really good weather day, people will usually go enjoy that day.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. And if it's not a great weather day, or if it's snowing, it could be blizzarding, right? Mid-March, Lord. And so we're always praying about the weather. And Lord, we just make it just right. And he always does. And we're so grateful for that. Although I don't think we have an alternate weather day in case we do have a March blizzard.
We do.
No, and I did ask Elizabeth the other day, has there ever been an auction that was canceled because of weather? And I think she said one, and then they had to reschedule for the next weekend.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, so we'll keep that. I have to keep that in mind. But thank you, Lord. Just know these are some of my, but I think more, the other big prayer that I have is that people would be connected in a way that they haven't been in the room typically. And as you know, there are all kinds of guests, people who know us, who don't. Yes, it is a fundraiser, but this is sort of the first connection toward the end of winter. I know technically we're not out of winter, but it's starting to feel that way. And I think my prayer is that these connections that form and the joy in that room would just continue on. And so I just really know there's a lot of prayer and a lot of work that goes into this. The Lord does answer that. How about, you've already shared some powerful, memorable moments. Any other short stories or highlights that you want to share, either for yourself or other people that you're seeing?
So I have one for you. Obviously, other than all the amazing volunteers, faculty, staff, and the sponsored child section, I remember it was my second auction, first in-person auction.
Okay.
I was a volunteer at that time, and we worked really, really hard, and to see it all come together. And then you came around at the end of the auction and you gave me this challenge coin. And that really, you thanked us for a job well done. And that really meant a lot to be recognized for all the hard work. And
so Kirsten has it right here.
I have it.
To me.
I still have it. I keep it on my desk. So that really
Do you remember what I think I asked you to do?
No.
I think it was just, as you think about it, one is remember the impact that you had as follow what God called you to do. And the second was just to continue to pray.
Yes.
Right. What God would do. So you do, and I thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great encouragement. And again, you and so many have such an impact that I don't think we can fully fathom what that looks like. But it's really amazing to see. Yeah. So I think you've touched on it a little bit, but what is another glimpse of behind the scenes impact that you see or sense or pick up as you think about, this week we're building to it. We just got out of a meeting kind of coordinating, make sure all the timelines were coordinated. I mean, this is a fairly complex, sort of week of, day of. Is there anything else like for specifically in the few days before that are behind the scenes that are really significant that you like to call attention to, or people that may not get noticed?
Just the volunteers, definitely the volunteers. They just come together, they get it done. Yesterday for setup this week, we didn't quite have as many volunteers as we had hoped we would have. And we had a very small but mighty crew, and they got it done. A moment from last year's auction that I'll always remember is Andrew, who I don't think I've ever really heard speak. On setup day, when we first moved into the gym and all the tables, he came and he was just had it in control. He was like, that table goes there, that table goes there.
Yeah, this is Andrew Kelsall. He's one of our janitors.
I was so impressed. Andrew and Bill, they, it's just the two of them, and they do such a wonderful job, and they're always working. And then to see them on top of that come and help really make a key difference in setup is really huge.
Yeah, I know those men really care about our school, and they work in such a humble, behind-the-scenes way.
They do.
And I'm glad you all see that too. And
Absolutely.
I didn't know that part of it. And see, I agree. I mean, Andrew, if you're listening, you're such an amazing man. And it's great to see that you do really know and care about all these details.
Absolutely. The one other thing I would just add is while we're putting on the current event, we're also communicating and talking and planning, okay, how can we improve next year? Yeah. So that's also a part of our auction week preparation.
Yeah. I think for this year, one of the kind of exciting behind the scenes things that maybe not everyone knows is we have a caterer that's coming that hasn't done an auction before. So that's prepping for that. And one of the big things with the caterer is the caterer works with our upper school students, and the upper school students come and serve the food, and they work the buffet. And so that's been a big behind the scenes, getting him on board with that. He loves the school PCA. He also caters the gala, and he is just excited to work with the students. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, his name is Sam, right? Yeah, I called Sam the other day.
Simply Elegant.
Yeah. What's his company?
Simply Elegant
Catering. Yeah.
Simply Elegant Catering. Yeah, so we've had, I've got to meet Sam a couple of years ago through his work and his team with the gala. And he's just such a really, really neat man. Yeah. I called him the other day just because I knew he was going to be working. I was just thanking him. And he just spoke so highly of the community and the students. And so anyways, really, thank you for calling attention out to Sam and his team. Yeah. And I did not realize this is I should have known that because I know some of the other good people who really made the breakfast special. But, it's good to know that we know who Sam is and he knows us. Yeah. So as you start to think even about the future, I don't want to get too far ahead because we're like thinking about Saturday, but you've already started to hit that where, this thing moves. Let's just go out, way out there. How do you see this, if not even maybe the 35th, but what's the future of the auction? What might it be? And as you're thinking and praying about it.
We have such a unique opportunity in the school to create this community connection and compassionate community and fellowship. And I think one of the things Liz and I were just chatting about this morning, actually, is how do we continue to evolve the event to make it more encompassing of our community so there's greater fellowship. So maybe somebody doesn't come to the auction because they can't spend all that money on a parking space, but we want them to still be part of the event. So what does that look like? How can we shape the event so that it's welcoming? And then also to connect with our outside community. Yeah. I think there's opportunity there. One of the things that really stuck with me is during an in-service, you had mentioned how I think Dover has more schools than any other town in the state. And that really stuck with me. So I'd like to explore ways to kind of bring in our larger community of Dover and how can we get them involved. And auction is such a great opportunity, again, to see the compassionate community in action.
Yeah, we've been so supported by the Dover team from during COVID, from the fire, police, even safety and health, their school team, the Dover School District, and their leadership there. So grateful, to the city as we've done things. So I appreciate your vision for that because I can see the potential, and we're so grateful to be a part of a city that really welcomes our school, and so. That's really encouraging.
The fire department even has a item in the live auction.
Do they?
Yes.
Yeah.
A ride on a fire.
Yeah. Ride on a fire. Well, good.
Yeah. It's normally one of the first ones we get back too after our letters go out. So yeah, that's always a good one.
That's really neat. Well, they have definitely responded a few times for us. They know who we are. We're grateful for those men and women. Yeah. That's great. How about you? Was there anything as you think to the future that you're praying about?
Similar, like Kirsten said, we were just talking about it this morning, just how to make it more community-centered and bringing the community together outside people in Dover and things like that. This is my second auction, so I just love everything about it and seeing it just amazes me every day to be a part of it. So just continuing to build on what Elizabeth has done for so many years and people before her as well. Yeah, just keep going.
If I
Keep setting goals.
Sure.
If I could just add one thing,
Yeah.
a little shout out. Our development committee is such a joy to be a part of. Our development department, our team. We all support each other. We're all there for each other. And that enables us to do our job all that much better.
Yeah. So just for the group out there, describe, because they may not know, they go, okay, auctions kind of all do the same thing, but you're part of a larger team.
We're part of a larger
And
team.
describe that team.
And we're part of the development team that's led by Elena Russo. And we have Summer Heath with volunteers on there, and Trish Garten. Trish and Summer also do a lot with the alumni. And then we have Elizabeth, Liz, and I
On the auction.
on the auction side.
Yeah.
So it's I love our team.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah, we love you all as a group, and you take care of each other well, but you also really have a heart and vision for our school, and it really is just, I'd say, is almost contagious in the best way possible, and we're so grateful for that. I think you mentioned something else that was really, I think, insightful for me too, and maybe Kirsten, Liz, you could pull on this, is I have noticed, and you described it, is when people start bidding on things. I was actually talking to another teacher the first time he wanted to bid on something, and he saw the bids. He's like, "Oh," just sort of sat back in his chair and kind of went, "Okay, this is out of my zone."
Yeah.
And that's humbling. And I think I've heard, Nate Paul, our marketing director, he first time he was here, he was right out of college, and he was just frankly overwhelmed. I mean, to even be able to talk about not only hundreds, but thousands, in some cases, tens of thousands of dollars is humbling, especially in these times. So how would you, because you're inviting people in, it's sort of, it creates in some cases, this cognitive dissonance, this little bit of tension for each of us as we think through this. How would you, any thoughts on how to navigate that? You know what I mean? You know what, you're sort of nodding here, but you know what I mean?
Well, I think that's why it's so important that we have options throughout the auction, that it's not just focused on, the live items, which are the bigger ticketed items. Whenever I mention to anybody outside of the PCA community what a parking spot goes for, they're like, what?
Yeah.
But it's just such a wonderful thing to see in the live auction. But then having options in the silent auction for people who maybe feel that overwhelm. I know we felt that our very first auction, like, wow, okay, we're kind of way out of our realm here. But making sure that we have those gift card options, the silent auction items, maybe even putting in some live items that aren't going to go for thousands upon thousands, and just bringing it all in as a whole. That way everybody feels like they can participate in the auction in some way.
And even if somebody comes and just experiences the special, unique nature of the event and doesn't bid, we welcome that as well. And just a quick shout out to our auctioneer, Justin Conway.
Yeah,
I mean, he's amazing. He's the real deal auctioneer.
He is legit.
So just to even come, have fellowship, have breakfast, you don't have to bid on anything. Just come and be part of the day.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, for me, the first thing is just being introduced to the spirit of the community at that time. I'm always just, again, so joyously humbled to be around these amazing men and women, whether they give financially, they give with just their presence and their hospitality, whether they give of their prayer, whether they give of their support out in the community throughout the year, just a good word and the invitation to get to know us better. These are all, that's the spirit of the auction throughout the year. And this is the one time that we all get to come together. I think you both touched on it, because I didn't know this before we're coming in, that your families, just as much as you give, you also receive some back in a different form. But I mean, this really enables families to come to and stay at PCA, and that provides the variable tuition. If you're not familiar with it, you can go to our website and learn more about what it is. But really what I would say is it helps meet each family where they're at. They're already giving as much as they can, so much joyfully and sacrificially, to bring their kids here or support their grandkids here or whoever. But they need a little extra help. And because they're stretched, everyone's stretched. And this is that piece that we see that gets multiplied and is significant. And I can tell you that this is my 6th year at PCA. I guess technically my 7th auction, as I told you earlier. But one of the things I've just been so pleasantly amazed to see is that as the school has grown, in enrollment back to where it used to be back in the early 2000s, that the community has grown proportionally about sort of this, one of my concerns, frankly, was, are we going to get all this out of whack? Our teachers and staff give first and foremost because they know the compensation that they give up to be here, but they do it joyfully. But we need to help meet them. And I'm just amazed to see that as we've grown, that this has enabled families like yours to come during that time period. But what I'd say is this is sustainable. When you step back, and it's always sustainable for the Lord. So I don't want to undermine that at all, what God does or doesn't do. But I think, Lord, is this healthy for a long-term community and you all have been a key part of it. It is sustainable, and we're grateful for that. So as your kids grow, right? I sort of heard the grades that your children are in. I mean, the encouragement that I have as I think about the auction in years to come is if you keep growing as the Lord grows, as slowly as we're doing it, this is sustainable for a long time. And it's not going to throw the community out of whack.
No.
It's going to invite more people in. And I'm really encouraged by that. And so you've both mentioned the impact of volunteers. And just to close out, if we could you just share a little bit about someone who might go, I don't know if I want to volunteer. What would you say to that person?
We have a role for everybody.
Yeah.
Whether you want to be out front and visible, whether you want to be behind the scenes entering, however you want to give, we will find a way for you to be part of our team.
There's something for everyone. There's for any talent.
So how would they connect with you all? What should they be looking for? I mean, they're going to maybe be at the auction. They can hear about it for sure. How would they connect?
They can definitely connect with me at auction. I kind of head the volunteer roles. And then we put out a sign up genius throughout the year.
Okay.
And that has all the available roles. And even if there's something on there that doesn't fit for you and you're like, well, maybe I could help in this way, bring it up to me. Happy to hear anything. There's help everywhere for you. So look for the sign up genius.
Where would
within
that
the
come? Would that be
community.
their email?
Through the emails with Elizabeth that go out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I linked in there.
we have our own auction page on the website, and we always do our best to make sure that's the auction hub for any information that you might need. There's links to the event, links to volunteer. So that's pcaschool.org/annual-auction.
There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So if you all are a volunteer or have been a volunteer, the other thing I would ask you to do is just invite someone to come along with you. I think at the beginning of the school year, there's an auction kickoff breakfast. That's a really good way to connect as you think about the new school year. So even now, as you think about your commitments for next year, think, I might want to be involved in this amazing process called the PCA auction. I would just start to pencil in what that might look like and know that it's come around the start of the new year, as you start to work through your calendar, new school year calendar, there's a great opportunity. Well, that's getting close to wrap. Any final thoughts as we close out?
We're just thankful for all the support of the auction and for the volunteers. Excited for Saturday. Hope the weather's good.
Right. Not too. So we're
the in between.
We're so thankful for you both. Thank you for your love for the Lord, your love for this community, and your good service. And I pray that you would just see that the Lord would reveal just the bounty of the flourishing of the school through your hands. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you on campus soon. This will obviously come to you post-auction. Wherever the earthly results are, we're so grateful for the way the Lord provides and blesses your family at PCA and beyond. God bless you. Take care. Thanks for listening.